You've heard this saying that anybody can sue anybody for anything. So there's a good chance at some point in your life you'll get sued. But there are some things that you can do to keep the target off your back. And as an attorney, I've spotted about 5 things that if people would just do this, it would greatly reduce the chance that they ever get sued. The first thing that I see is people put way too much on social media. If you have reason to think that you might be involved in a lawsuit, don't put anything about any of the details of that case on social media. And I know you think, oh, yeah, what kind of idiot would put stuff about a lawsuit on social media? Well, it's a little bit more nuanced than that. Let's say you were involved in a car crash and you were the victim and you got hit from behind, your bumper got scraped up a little bit and your neck's killing you. You got an appointment to go see a doctor about how bad your neck is. If you post the damage to your bumper on social media, that picture could find its way into court. And the attorneys on the other side might say, oh, she's actually not that hurt because there's barely any damage on her bumper. So before you go posting on social media, think, is this something that could even in a stretch, could this be used in a courtroom in a way that I don't like? The other big problem about posting on social media is that it can tend to show the world how deep your pockets are. And if the outside world sees that you got deep pockets, well, guess what? You're going to see a lot more lawsuits. It's not worth it to sue somebody who's poor, so don't post on social media how rich you are. Tip number 2, I'd say be careful with contracts. I have a whole nother video about unwritten agreements. You could have sort of this he said situation that can get you in a lot of trouble, like Adam Carolla. In the other video, I talk about how Adam Carolla and his good buddy growing up came up with the idea to have a podcast, and then Adam Carolla does this podcast and starts making a ton of cashola. And then Carolla's buddy says, hey, you know what? We were partners. We had a partnership agreement, that unwritten agreement that said we were going to split the cashola. Well, you have a he said situation. Had that been in writing in a written partnership agreement, there wouldn't have been that big lawsuit. So before you decide to get involved in a business with a buddy, before you agree to do a bunch of work for somebody, get a contract, like a legit contract. Even better yet, go see an attorney to do that contract, because we see a ton of litigation involving contracts and even unwritten or handshake agreements. Don't be a landlord if you're afraid of being in a lawsuit, because I can't guarantee that every landlord at some point in her or his life will be involved in a lawsuit, but the chances are really, really high. So if that makes you feel uncomfortable, don't even get in the game. If you're going to get in the game and you're going to own property and rent it out to people, then have some airtight agreements. Go see a lawyer to make sure that your lease agreements are locked down and airtight. And on the tenant side of things, if you're going to look at a particular rental property, before you get all schmoozed by how pretty it is and how wonderful the location is and all that kind of stuff, read your agreement before you sign it. Don't get too carried away, because we see a lot of lawsuits by tenants where they allege, this wasn't up to the spec that I thought. I thought I was getting 2 parking spaces, whatever, things like that. And the landlord says, did you read your agreement? Now, I'm an attorney who's handled a lot of estate and inheritance disputes. People get weird when it involves inheritance. So if you don't want your family to be involved in a lawsuit, then get a will, get a trust. Better yet, get it done by an attorney. Those attorneys have, from experience, learned how things can be drafted, like having a no contest clause in the will or trust that will greatly, drastically reduce the likelihood of a lawsuit after you pass away. If there's smoke, don't just presume there's no fire. If there are warning signs, pay attention to them. For example, if you get a cease and desist letter, I guess you could just make a paper airplane out of it and light it on fire or trash it or whatever, but maybe that is a warning sign that you should pay attention to. If you get a demand letter from your pissed off neighbor, I guess you could throw it away and do nothing. But I see a lot of neighbor disputes. So maybe it's something that you want to address before it spirals into a lawsuit. In the same vein, I see a lot of people that get creditor notices or a notice from the mortgage company that says, hey, you're a little behind on your payments and we're going to have to foreclose or we're going to have to sue you. Pay attention to that letter you got from the lender, because a lot of times there are options maybe go see a lawyer, or maybe go see a financial advisor. Find out what your options are for dealing with that before just burying your head in the sand and potentially getting sued. Now, I have a bonus tip. If you ask me, is there a good chance that you're going to get sued at some point in your life? I would say, yeah, there's a decent chance. Where your attention should be focused is, what can I do to minimize the damage? So the bonus tip is shield your assets. You know, in that landlord tenant situation, if the landlord held that home in his own individual name and that tenant sues him, there's a good chance that the old landlord is individually liable and all of his personal assets could be up for grabs by that suing tenant. On the other hand, what if he had that rental property in an LLC? Well, then the tenant may only be able to sue the LLC, and all of the landlord's non-LLC assets have been protected. And another bonus tip is, if you don't want to get involved in a lawsuit, then don't get involved in any risky business. And I know that sounds funny, but it's totally true. There are some new businesses that you could start that are just more prone to lawsuits. Any sort of business that involves a vehicle that's going to be driven around by an employee, it feels like it's almost a matter of time before somebody gets involved in a car crash in a company vehicle. So if you are just terribly nervous about getting involved in a lawsuit, then you probably don't want to be in business where you have employees driving around company vehicles. A lot of things dealing with construction or construction contracting, those are high risk fields because there's a strong likelihood that at some point there will be a breach of contract claim that you'll be involved in, or again, somebody might claim that they were injured at a job site. In those professions, you just see a much higher likelihood of lawsuit. So if you can't stand the heat, don't get in the fire. I can't promise you that there's no way that you're going to get sued, because I think the statistic is that there are about 40 million lawsuits every year just in the United States. But by watching this video, maybe you'll minimize your chance a little bit. And if you are involved in a lawsuit, maybe you've minimized the potential damage that you might face.